All right, diving right in today, we're going to be listening to a conversation between two Ukrainian business experts.
Ooh, sounds interesting.
Yeah, and so their names are Alexander Smazhuk,
Okay,
and you pronounce it Alexander Smazhuk, so there's like the S in measure,
gotcha.
and Olena Kiyanovska.
All right.
And Alexander is a strategic marketer who helps entrepreneurs and business owners with their marketing. And Helena is an expert in IT delivery, so she helps to make the creation of software go more smoothly and correctly.
Huh, that's a pretty cool combo, like marketing strategist attracting the clients and then the IT expert who makes sure everything gets done, efficiently.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And their conversation originally aired on a Ukrainian podcast called the BizData Show. And they covered a bunch of stuff, the power of podcasts themselves to different marketing strategies and like the realities of the IT industry, particularly given the ongoing conflict in Ukraine.
Oh, yeah. I bet that adds like a whole other layer to their insights. You know what I mean? It's not just theoretical business strategies.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like tactics being applied in a really, really tough environment.
Exactly. And they don't sugarcoat anything. Helena jumps right into a really frank assessment of the Ukrainian IT sector and points out that sales are struggling due to the war,
Yeah, I can imagine that.
with some clients being hesitant to work with Ukrainian companies.
Yeah, makes sense. But doesn't that make the role of lead generators even more important? I mean, they not only have to find potential clients, but they have to like build that trust and confidence.
Yeah, it's like a double sales job.
Totally.
You're selling the services, and you're selling the stability of the company itself.
For sure. And on top of all that, Helena predicts that rates for IT professionals in Ukraine are going to keep falling because of the conflict.
Oof, that's tough.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good.
Yeah, it sounds like a sector facing some serious headwinds. So how do you navigate that?
Right.
And that's where Alexander's perspective on marketing comes in.
Okay.
He's like really passionate about long-term marketing strategies.
Okay.
So not the quick fixes.
Yeah.
Or flashy campaigns,
Right.
but a consistent and sustained effort over a long period of time.
Yeah, like he's pushing back against that whole like instant gratification thing that seems to dominate the marketing world.
Totally.
Yeah.
And he uses this great example of a dental clinic that only started seeing real success after 6 months of, dedicated SEO and marketing work.
It's true. Sometimes the long game is the only way to win.
For sure. Especially when you're trying to build that brand and establish trust,
Yeah.
which is something that both Helena and Alexander say is crucial.
Yeah. And they talk about that idea of personal branding,
Yeah.
which is like, it's not just a sleek website. It's about showing your expertise and like building real connections and letting your personality come through.
Absolutely. People buy from people, as
Yeah,
they say.
exactly.
And Helena mentions that she prefers to learn things through videos and podcasts because it feels more personal.
Yeah.
And that actually ties into Alexander's thing about podcasts as a marketing tool. Like, he really thinks they are great for building those networks
Okay. Yeah.
and creating content quickly
Yeah.
and showcasing your expertise in a, engaging and conversational way.
Oh, wow. Like we're literally proving his point right now.
I know, right?
That's so meta.
I love it. But it's not just podcasts.
So
Alexander is a huge advocate for YouTube as well.
interesting.
He calls it a search engine, and he emphasizes how important it is to have content indexed by search engines so you reach a wider audience.
That's a good point. Yeah.
He argues that content on other platforms like Instagram or Facebook,
Right.
even though those are important, they're not indexed in the same way, so it limits, discoverability.
Yeah. You're not going to show up in the search result.
Yeah, exactly. And then he throws us a little curveball with his views on marketing plans.
Uh-oh. What did he say?
Basically, he says there's no ideal marketing plan.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
I love that. That's so refreshing.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And he advocates for this flexible roadmap that evolves as you gather data and get feedback.
Okay.
So it's all about adapting, experimenting, and being responsive instead of rigidly following a plan.
It reminds me of that agile methodology used in software development.
Oh, yeah.
You have a plan, but you're constantly iterating and adjusting based on, new information and challenges.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Makes sense. It's all about being flexible and adaptable.
Yeah.
And both Alexander and Helena are diving headfirst into the world of podcasts.
Makes sense.
They see them as this powerful way to connect with their audience and share their expertise.
Well, they're definitely walking the walk.
I know, right? And Alexander brings up a great point about repurposing podcast content.
Oh, yeah.
So you can create snippets for social media, turn conversations into blog posts, or even use them as the basis for a video series on YouTube.
It's all about maximizing that content's reach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it really speaks to that need for a multi-platform approach to marketing these days.
Right, you can't just pick one anymore.
You have to be everywhere your audience is: YouTube, podcasts, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of LinkedIn, Helena's been actively using it to build her network and find new clients.
Nice.
And she says it's actually surprisingly easy to connect with people, start conversations, and even collaborate on projects like podcasts.
Very cool.
So, yeah, it really shows the power of LinkedIn for building trust and credibility, especially in that B2B space.
For sure, but Alexander points out that marketing to a B2B audience can be tricky.
Oh, how so?
Well, they tend to be less responsive on social media and less likely to engage with posts or leave comments.
Really? So how do you, cut through all that noise and actually reach them?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's all about providing real value, offering solutions to their very specific problems,
Right.
and really positioning yourself as a thought leader in that space.
So not about the hard sell.
No, it's about building relationships and demonstrating your expertise. And it can be frustrating when those social media algorithms keep changing the rules of the game.
I know.
Alexander talks about how recent changes to LinkedIn's algorithm have made it even harder to reach a wider audience, especially if you're trying to connect with people outside of your immediate network.
Yeah, organic reach just isn't enough anymore.
No.
You have to be strategic with how you use these platforms.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means paying for ads, to make sure your content is actually seen by the right people.
That's true. Spend money to make money, as they say.
Exactly. But even with the paid ads, it still boils down to creating that high-quality, engaging content that actually resonates with people.
Absolutely.
And diversify, right, your marketing efforts.
Yeah.
Don't just put all your eggs in one basket. Have a presence on multiple platforms.
Right.
Experiment with different strategies and be ready to adapt as things change.
Totally.
It's like having a diversified investment portfolio. You want to manage risk and maximize returns.
That's a great analogy. And that theme of adaptability just runs through this whole conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think Alexander's observation about, the current state of the world with the war in Ukraine, the elections in the U.S., and uncertainty in so many places, that really reinforces that.
Yeah, you got to be flexible and resilient.
Exactly.
You have to be able to adjust your strategies as things change.
Find ways to thrive in a world that's constantly changing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and speaking of new horizons, Alexander even touches on his interest in the Asian market.
Oh, wow.
He acknowledges both the potential and the challenges,
Yeah.
particularly around cultural differences and that language barrier.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
And he tells this funny story about, interacting with Google's tech support,
Okay.
which is mostly based in India,
Right.
and, the difficulties he had understanding their accents and the need for really clear communication.
Yeah. It's funny, but it's also a good reminder
I know, right?
to be culturally sensitive
Yes.
and patient when working across borders and languages.
Totally. And it brings us to the heart of what both Helena and Alexandra believe is crucial for success: passion and authenticity.
Oh, I like that.
Helena really believes that people are drawn to those who are genuinely excited about what they do.
Yeah, let your passion shine.
Yeah, and connect with customers on a human level.
Yeah.
And Alexander agrees, he adds, that it's essential to, be present online,
Okay.
share your knowledge, and engage with your audience.
Right.
He thinks that building relationships and, fostering a sense of community is really key, especially in today's digital world.
For sure.
They are both such strong advocates for taking action,
I love that.
experimenting, learning from your mistakes,
Yeah,
and constantly evolving.
totally. They really embody that growth mindset.
Yeah, and they make it really clear that they're still learning and growing themselves.
That's inspiring.
I know, right? And their final message is pretty simple, but it's powerful. Don't be afraid to experiment. Break free from those rigid plans. Keep learning and keep evolving your approach. I know, right? It's infectious.
It is.
Their energy and their willingness to share both their successes and their struggles make them so relatable.
Yeah, it is refreshing.
And it makes their insights even more valuable because, it's from experience and not just theory.
Totally.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We've covered a lot here, from the current challenges in the Ukrainian IT sector to the importance of personal branding, long-term marketing strategies, the power of podcasts and YouTube, and the need to adapt in an ever-changing world.
Yeah, it's like a masterclass in navigating the modern business landscape.
It is, and it boils down to Alexander's final advice. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't get stuck in those rigid plans. Just keep learning and keep evolving your approach.
That growth mindset.
Exactly. So here's a question for you to think about. If the best marketing plan is the one that's constantly evolving, what's one small change you can make to your approach this week?
Maybe try out a new platform like Alexander suggested with YouTube, connect with someone new on LinkedIn like Helena, or just, tweak your messaging a bit to be more authentic and engaging.
Yeah, whatever it is, just take that step.
Yeah.
Embrace the challenge.
Totally.
And remember, in the world of business, as in life, the only constant is change.
And those who are willing to adapt, evolve, and connect with others will be the ones who thrive.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.
Bye.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's that willingness to adapt that can really make a difference.
Yeah.
Like it can make or break you in today's market,
Totally.
And it's interesting how both Alexander and Helena are just going all in on podcasts as this powerful way to connect with their audience and share their expertise.
They're walking the walk.
For sure.
And Alexander makes this really great point about repurposing the content.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
So like taking snippets for social media, turning conversations into blog posts, or even like using them as the basis for a video series on YouTube.
Oh, that's smart.
It's all about maximizing the reach of your content.
Yeah, and it really speaks to the need to be on multiple platforms these days.
Right.
Like you can't just rely on one channel anymore.
Yep.
You got to be where your audience is, whether that's YouTube, podcasts, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Speaking of LinkedIn, Helena's been using it a lot to build her network and find clients.
Oh, cool.
And she says it's been surprisingly easy to connect with people,
Really?
start conversations, and even collaborate on projects like podcasts.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it really highlights how powerful LinkedIn can be for building trust and credibility, especially in that B2B space.
Definitely. But Alexander points out that marketing to a B2B audience can be kind of tricky.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, he says they tend to be less responsive on social media and less likely to engage with posts or leave comments.
So how do you cut through the noise and reach them?
Right. That's a good question.
It sounds like it's all about providing real value,
Okay.
offering solutions to their specific problems,
Mhm.
and positioning yourself as like a thought leader in your field.
Yeah. So it's not about the hard sell. It's
Yeah.
about building relationships and demonstrating your expertise,
Exactly.
which can be hard when those social media algorithms keep changing the rules. I know, it's so frustrating.
Right.
Alexander talks about how recent changes to LinkedIn's algorithm have made it even harder to reach a wider audience, especially when you're trying to connect with people outside of your immediate network.
It's true. Like organic reach isn't enough anymore.
You got to be strategic
Yeah.
about how you use these platforms.
Mhm.
And sometimes that means investing in paid advertising to make sure your content is seen by the right people.
It's true.
Spend money to make money.
Exactly. But even with paid ads, you still need to create high quality, engaging content
Yeah.
that resonates with your audience.
Absolutely. And diversify
Yes, diversify.
your marketing efforts. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
You got to be present on multiple platforms, experiment with different strategies, and be ready to adapt as the landscape changes.
Yeah, it's like having a diversified investment portfolio.
Exactly.
Manage your risk and maximize returns.
I like that analogy.
Thanks.
So that theme of adaptability really runs through this whole conversation.
Yeah.
And Alexander's observation about the current state of the world with the war in Ukraine, the elections in the U.S., the uncertainty in so many different places, it just reinforces that point.
It really does.
You have to be flexible, resilient,
Be able to adjust your strategies as things change.
find a way to thrive in a world that's always in flux.
Yeah, and speaking of new horizons, Alexander even talks about his interest in the Asian market.
Interesting.
He acknowledges both the potential and the challenges,
Yeah.
especially with cultural differences and the language barrier.
Oh, for sure.
He actually tells this really funny story about his interactions with Google's tech support, which is mostly based in India,
Right.
and the difficulties he had understanding their accents and the need for like really clear communication.
Oh, I can imagine.
It's funny, but it also highlights the importance of cultural sensitivity
Yeah.
and patience when working across borders and languages.
Yeah, for sure.
And it brings us to what both Helena and Alexander emphasize as crucial for success:
Yeah.
passion and authenticity.
Oh, I like that.
Helena really believed that people are drawn to those who are genuinely enthusiastic about what they do.
It's true.
Yeah, she encourages listeners to find their passion, let it shine through in their work,
Yeah,
and connect with customers on a human level.
totally. And Alexander kind of echoes that,
Yeah.
saying that you need to be present online,
Mm-hmm.
share your knowledge, engage with your audience.
Right.
He thinks that building relationships and fostering a sense of community is key, especially in today's digital world.
It is. They're both such strong advocates for taking action,
Yeah,
experimenting, learning from mistakes, and constantly evolving.
they really embody that growth mindset.
They do.
Yeah.
And they make it clear that they're still learning and growing themselves.
That's inspiring.
It is. And their final message is simple but powerful. Don't be afraid to experiment.
Okay.
Break free from those rigid plans. Keep learning and keep evolving your approach.
Yeah, it's really inspiring.
Their final message is simple but powerful. Don't be afraid to experiment. Break free from rigid plans.
Mm-hmm.
Keep learning, keep evolving.
Yeah, I love that.
It's infectious.
It is. Their energy is great.
And they're willing to share their successes and struggles,
Yeah.
which makes them so relatable.
It's refreshing, and it makes their insights so much more valuable because you know they're speaking from experience.
Exactly.
And just theory.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Yeah, good question.
We covered a lot of ground here. The challenges in the Ukrainian IT sector, personal branding, long-term marketing, the power of podcasts and YouTube, the need for adaptability.
It's a lot. It's like a masterclass in navigating the modern business world.
It really is, and it all comes down to Alexander's advice.
Yeah. What's that?
Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't get bogged down in rigid plans.
Mm-hmm.
Keep learning and keep evolving.
That growth mindset.
Exactly. So here's a final thought for you.
Okay.
If the best marketing plan is the one that's constantly evolving,
Right.
what's one small change you can make to your approach this week?
Maybe try a new platform like Alexander suggested with YouTube. Connect with someone new on LinkedIn like Helena.
Yeah, or maybe just tweak your messaging to be a little bit more authentic and engaging.
Yeah, good idea.
Whatever it is, just take that step.
Take the leap.
Embrace the challenge. And remember, in business as in life, the only constant is change.
And those who adapt and evolve will be the ones who thrive.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.
See you next time.
Bye.